Hello, bonjour, shalom, and welcome to Hi There.
Hi There, our culturally Jewish podcast powered by AJN.
That's right, Hi There. Like Hi There, but with a little more life in it.
18 times more life, technically. I'm Addie.
And I'm David, and between the two of us, we cover a pretty wide range of Jewish experience.
Different generations, different perspectives.
Same neuroses.
This is our very first episode, which means we're figuring it out in real time.
But doing it with confidence.
Unearned confidence.
The most Jewish kind.
This podcast is really about culture, identity, and the conversations that will come out of that.
The ones that are thoughtful, occasionally uncomfortable,
and ideally, a little bit of fun.
And you listening right now are part of the very beginning, so thank you for being here.
Truly.
Now, today's guest is someone who spends a lot of time thinking about stories and how they bring people together. But before we get to the interview, I think we should let people know a little bit about us. So, Addie, who are you?
So, I am currently a first-year university student at Concordia in Edmonton. I'm studying psychology and then going into education to hopefully become a teacher. And obviously, I'll probably head down the path to teach at our city's Talmud Torah. I enjoy photography, I enjoy traveling, and pretty much anything that has to do with being outside. I also love musical theater, and I feel like, David, you can kind of agree with that. Do you want to give the audience a little bit about who you are?
I can definitely agree with that. My background is in theater and the arts. So I'm originally from Montreal. I grew up there, spent most of my life there, went to theater school there, and then came out to Calgary about 10 years ago. I moved here for love, and I've been having a great time being a good old Berta boy. I've worked across stages across Canada. I've been a bit of a journalist. I lived in Israel for about half a year, working with Masa and Achvat Amim programs. So my background definitely is Jewish. So I've been enjoying my time here in Alberta and working as an artist. So there's something kind of magical and a little dangerous about sitting in a dark room with strangers, watching a story that might hit a little too close to home. For today, we're here with Lavy, coordinator of the Edmonton Jewish Film Festival, which, let's be honest, is not just about films. It's about identity, awkward family dynamics, history, guilt, maybe some food, all the good stuff. The festival is celebrating its 30th year and runs from May 3rd to the 13th in Edmonton. Let's get right into the interview. Bar, thank you for being our inaugural guest.
Thanks for having me.
You're curating not just what people watch, but how a community sees itself. No pressure. So I just want to start here. If the Edmonton Jewish Film Festival were, let's say, a scene in a movie, what's happening when the lights go down? What do you want the audience to feel before they even understand what they're going to watch?
So I think you kind of gave the answer in your question there of like the thing that I'm looking for people to feel is community. That's what this festival is about, bringing people together and enjoy something that relates to them or something that's new and that, you know, kind of challenges them. But at the end of the day, I want them to feel together. I want them to feel excited to be there together. And really right now, Jewish pride is a really challenging thing for a lot of people. So I want to have that environment where people can be Jewish together, be proud to be Jewish together without it feeling too religious, obligatory, or kind of traditional in that sense. Like, let's just have good, modern Jewish fun.
And this is your first year as the coordinator. So what drew you to the Edmonton Jewish Film Festival? And maybe what surprised you about this role?
I've had a love of film for my whole life. I work in the film industry and have for over 15 years. And I've worked with other film festivals before. But definitely since post October 7th, my Jewish identity has been getting strengthened and coming more to the forefront. And this really just seemed like a great opportunity to me to bring together two different parts of my identity of, you know, film world and Jewish man and be fully myself in this role. And I knew this was a big community event in Edmonton, but it's been really surprising to see how passionate so many people are about this event, and actually really rewarding to see that and really motivating. But there's a lot of different people that you would be really surprised that have a lot invested in this festival on a personal level.
I agree. I feel like a lot of people can be able to connect to this, and we don't particularly have a lot of Jewish films that are, you know, broadcasted internationally. So to be able to have this kind of community of our own, it's really special. In your opinion, what makes a film authentically representative of the Jewish culture, because that's really important, is that representation for us.
You know, that's a really interesting question. I can tell you that in the selection process, we viewed over, I want to say 70 movies, and everybody has their own kind of opinion on what makes a movie Jewish. And so often it feels really like ham-fisted and shoved in there, and people are just trying really hard to make the movie feel Jewish. It doesn't take a lot. I think Jewish values are something that we all kind of instinctively understand. They kind of really come through the scene. Really, when those Jewish values are present on the screen, then that's when the movie becomes Jewish. And it's really clear and apparent when the values that the movie is kind of trying to show are what people assume are Jewish values versus what Jewish values actually are.
So what's an example of that? Let's say maybe a film that is not necessarily Jewish in the front and center, but where you get this experience. You say, oh, this is something, subtly Jewish, something that's going on behind the scenes. Is there a film maybe this year that brings that out?
100%. One of my personal favorites that we're showing this year is a film called Nanduri. We're showing it online on May 11th. It's about a Israeli lawyer that was born in the country of Georgia, and she left Georgia as a young girl, and she comes back as an adult and as a lawyer to go and get her client's child that her client had left behind in Georgia. And the only real connection to Judaism in Israel is the fact that the lawyer is now an Israeli person. Otherwise, like if you make her Canadian, the whole thing, you could easily do that and nothing else changes in the movie. However, the values and the character that she shows and the journey that she goes through of trying to get everything sorted to bring this boy back to his mother is really truly a Jewish tale. It's and the way that she goes about it, the way that she interacts with the Georgian people along this journey, it's undoubtedly a Jewish person that goes through that. And I don't really have the words to put that together other than to say that it just naturally comes across from the screen.
So, and this is something I've discussed in my arts background a lot. It's a big question, especially after October 7th, is whether non-Jews should be portraying Jews in theater, film, production, any type of the arts. I'm curious whether you think, running and coordinating this festival, whether you think we should see more Jewish representation, Jewish actors portraying Jewish roles, or whether it doesn't matter. It's just the character, and an actor is an actor portraying a part.
Knee-jerk reaction, I would say an actor is just an actor, and any actor can play any role if they're good enough of an actor to kind of take on that persona. Jews have a lot of representation in Hollywood, and I think we take on a lot of roles often that aren't Jewish. And so I think it's unfair to say, well, you can't play a Jewish person if you're not Jewish. At that same time, kind of like I said, there should be somebody around on the set to make sure that the representation is accurate and it's good. And that it's not tokenizing, because I think that also oftentimes happens on screen, where our characters become these stereotypical personas that aren't really true to who we are.
So in the films that you've programmed, have you ever thought, this film or this interpretation might upset people? And did that make you more or less determined to include it? And I can imagine today people are very sensitive, especially if it's something dealing with Israel. People say, I don't know if we should program this. This might be too much. This might be too hard for people to see. Does that enter your mind when you're programming stuff?
100%. We have a lot of considerations given the fact that we're a community-based event around the different opinions that our Jewish community has, which, as I'm sure everybody here knows, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. Multiply that by the 5,000 that we have here in Edmonton. My personal opinion is that art should be controversial. Art should poke at things, and that is what inspires the dialogue, which at the end of the day is what the film festival is all about. It's about bringing the people together and giving them something to talk about. So whether it ruffles some feathers or it just kind of placates everybody, ideally we're giving them something that challenges them and forces them to look at things in a different way. And we certainly have that with some of our films this year. There's definitely films that kind of look at the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the political situation in Israel today, and they uncover some hard truths, and they make us look at things in a way that I think our common Jewish dialogue doesn't really kind of talk about.
What do you want people to learn and gain after watching these films? What do you want them to maybe shift focus on after coming out of these films?
I'll go for a specific example here. One of the films I'm most excited about to show this year is called Soul of a Nation. It's a documentary made by a Venezuelan-born filmmaker. He got really inspired back in 2023 when the Israeli protests started going on about the Supreme Court changes and like all the political situation around Bibi's corruption trial. And
Right.
he saw a lot of similarities between the modern political situation in Israel and what happened pre-Maduro in Venezuela. And so he kind of wanted to go and look at that political and societal division. The film ends up really giving a very balanced perspective of all the different sides that are kind of competing and combating each other in the Israeli political sphere. And it, you know, not to give too many spoilers here, but the film kind of tries to put out a message of listen to each other, don't try to fight each other all the time, and we're all really coming at problems from the same motivations of trying to be safe and trying to kind of live life in a Jewish way. But what are the implications of that, and how have we kind of lost sight of what Jewish life and like Jewish values really are? And at the end of the day, what I think people will take away from this message is an ability to look at a more comprehensive, expansive image of what is actually going on in Israel. And that's really what I want to do. I want to have the films that broaden people's horizons and expand their consciousness and give them new things to think about and things that they might have thought about before, but now see in a completely different light.
Just going back to the film festival itself, what's something that, you know, you've been running this film festival since October now in your new position. What's something about running the festival that people might not fully appreciate or understand? What does it take to put these films together? I can imagine you're not just, you know, reaching out, calling and grabbing a film and saying, hey, we're going to run this. What's the whole picture look like in your day-to-day life?
It changes all the time. You know, it depends on the month because it's a gradual process that has several different steps that kind of stack on top of each other. So when I started, the initial stage was putting out a call out for films and to get people and filmmakers and distributors to send us their films so that we can put together that first initial list of like what's actually out there this year. Right after that, there's a whole lot of watching movies, which, you know, as a day job, I can highly, highly recommend.
Yes.
We watch a lot of movies. I work really closely with our film festival committee, who helps in the selection process, as well as our festival chair, who kind of works hand in hand with me throughout the whole selection process as we're curating and watching all the films. After that, it really does become a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails that go in so many different directions because as the coordinator, I'm kind of the man in charge of Edmonton Jewish Film Festival in the sense of I work closely with a lot of different people, but it all kind of comes through me. And so whether it's marketing, ticketing, venue logistics, sourcing the films, working with sponsorships, working with community members. There's so many different things that I do on a day-to-day basis. And 5 minutes, I'll be working on one task. And then the next 5 minutes, I'm doing something completely unrelated. And it can get pretty hectic because there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes in order to actually put the movie on the screen.
I imagine the majority of your audience are Jewish, but if you could force a non-Jewish Edmontonian audience to watch one film this festival, what would that be?
Soul of a Nation, for sure. I think, like I was talking about earlier, I think that film really brings a comprehensive perspective on what's going on in Israel in a way that our Western media doesn't really show. As an Israeli-born person, that I generally find myself more in tune to some of the stuff, even compared to like a lot of Jews in the community here, just because I read Hebrew news, I watch Hebrew like TV and stuff. That being said, the divide and the gap between what North American Jews know about the modern Israeli political situation and non-Jews is almost infinite. It's crazy how wide that gap is. And I think this film really explains things in a way that humanizes Israelis in a way that is so necessary right now because of how much we've been dehumanized and, you know, reduced to simply being Zionists or colonizers or whatever.
The evil Zionists tropes.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever word you want to toss to, you know, hide the anti-Semitism. I think Soul of a Nation is really a film that does it in a way that is, I don't necessarily want to say politically correct because it definitely presents some non-politically correct ideas, but it does it in a way that is non-judgmental about the different views that it shows and the different perspectives, all of which Israel is a cosmopolitan country with a lot of different people and a lot of different views. And all of that is what created the situation that the state finds itself in today.
I mean, this is very interesting because one of the things I'm thinking about is the difference, and you mentioned this, between the diasporic Jewish communities and the Israeli society as a whole, where it's sometimes we might see Israel as what we want it to be or what we grew up thinking it was to what it actually is today, which is a fully complicated mess right now. And that's what I'm picking out you're saying, is that it is so much more complicated, that the Israeli society and Israeli citizens are very unique, that they are human beings. They're not one thing that society wants them to make them out as evil Zionist colonizers, but they're also not on the other side too, that there is a kind of a mess, a hodgepodge going on today.
Yeah, 100%. Somebody, actually the director for Soul of the Nation, we had a conversation, and he used the analogy of Beauty and the Beast, where he says that in the diaspora, we too often try and treat Israel like Gaston in Beauty and the Beast, where he's perfect, he's everything. Yeah. But if you actually watch that movie, Gaston is the villain, and that's not how we should be treating Israel. Israel is the beast of, to the outside world, it looks ugly and hideous and scary, but in the inside, it's a soft, tender, like wholehearted country. And so
Sabra, like, you know.
Exactly, you know, and so he like really, you know, and again, I think that's kind of what the film is trying to do, is bring out that idea of there's ugliness, but there's beauty as well, and we have to look at the entire thing in order to be able to treat it as it is.
You know, when the festival is over, what might success look like for you beyond just audience numbers and a growth in attendance?
I want the conversations to keep going, and I want people to take away something that they've learned from this movie and be able to apply that in their regular life, whether that's, you know, messaging from one of our documentaries. You know, we have a really fascinating historical documentary about the Holocaust and the post-war situation in Poland after the Holocaust that showed me a lot of new things that I never knew. And so that's really the big win, is if people come, they watch something, they learn, they talk about it, and it sticks with them for the rest of their life. That's the goal here.
You kind of want that, like, everlasting effect. It doesn't matter how many people attend, how many people watch the films. If it affects one person and it affects them for the rest of their life, you know that you've made an impact. And people are experiencing this, being able to curate these films, like they're able to produce them, like make them for us, and be able to experience them ourselves. Now looking kind of at the smaller picture things and being able to, you know, kind of go into the funner side, this is kind of more of like a personal question for you, but what do you think would be your go-to Jewish movie snack for watching these films?
Movie snacks, I am notorious for my obsession with popcorn. I eat a lot of popcorn in my personal life, and in the movies, I can easily demolish the largest one that they have, and I'm eating popcorn the entire movie, no matter what's on screen, how gory or unappetizing it might be. In terms of Jewish snacks, like I really think you can't go wrong with any little bit of chocolate that you bring into the movie theater. It's nice and easy. Definitely maybe, you know, stay away from the peanut butter chocolate because we do have peanut allergies around, but otherwise chocolate and popcorn, it's the classic.
So wait. Butter at the top or butter in the middle of the popcorn?
That's the real question.
That is the big question here.
I'm going to give the funny answer that you guys have probably never heard before. No butter in the theater. Butter I do at home, and I eat the popcorn with a spoon, which I would highly recommend. I just, the butter all over my fingers makes a mess, and I'm naturally a messy person, and I'd like to leave the movie theater without stains all over my body. So, you know,
I've never heard that one.
Yeah, exactly. You know, at home, butter and a spoon, I would highly recommend it. It keeps your hands clean, and it works just like cereal.
So before we wrap up, can you tell us where and when we can watch these films?
The films are going to be at Fort Edmonton Park for the most part. We have 3 online features as well that we have locked in dates for those, but you can watch those anywhere in the greater Edmonton area. Otherwise, we're doing all of our in-person screenings at the historic Capitol Theatre in Fort Edmonton Park.
And I just want to ask you one more thing about the Earl Parker Award.
I personally just don't know a lot about the Earl Parker Award myself, so do you mind just explaining to us what the award is and how it came to be? be?
Earl Parker was a member of our community here in Edmonton who was very invested in the Jewish Film Festival and in our community. And when he passed, he left an endowment to the festival to kind of put up this award to promote Jewish film in Canada. And so the Earl Parker Award is open to any Jewish filmmaker or any filmmaker making a Jewish project in Canada. And so we kind of judge that based on, number one, the Jewish quality of the proposal and what people are trying to make. Number two, the quality of film that we think we're going to get in return. And then number three, the impact that it's going to have on that individual. And those are the things that we kind of try and look for.
For the funds that you guys are gathering from the ticket purchases, where are these funds exactly going?
The film festival has always been supporting the P2G program, which is our partnership with a region in northern Israel. So typically the funds have gone to various projects over there. This year, we're doing a little bit of a different approach. We're raising money to help support bringing Shinshinim over from Israel. So for those that don't know, Shinshinim, it's basically Jewish missionaries from Israel that are just finished their high school education, and it's before they go to their military service. They do a year of national service. And this is the national service that they're doing, where they become missionaries to different communities around the world and bring a little bit of an Israel connection and help cultivate ties with the diaspora Jewish community and Israelis specifically, and particularly young Jews. So we're going to be bringing over two Shinshinim. One of them is from our partnership region, and that's kind of what we're targeting. The region has, a lot of issues, from anything from poverty to the fact that they've been getting missiles launched at them by Hezbollah for a nice little while. So we're taking somebody out. They're going to be here in Edmonton for the whole year next year, and they're going to be around a whole bunch of various community programs and initiatives to build that closer connection with the partnership region.
And where's the best place that people can get their tickets?
Ticket sales are live online. Everybody can go to EJFF2026.eventive.org/welcome. Get all your tickets there. We have a few different fun things going on this year. So one of the things that we're doing for the first time ever is we're having a family fun movie day on Mother's Day. It's a matinee that we're showing at 11 a.m. It's a matinee. It's the movie Shrek that we've all seen. And that's a free movie for people to come with their families so that hopefully they can get their Mother's Day started off right with the movies. After that, we're doing a free horse carriage ride around Fort Edmonton Park as well, so that people can go and check out the park. The park isn't properly open, but they get a nice little view of the whole thing, and before the summer starts, they can get excited about it. That's in collaboration with Jewish Family Services Edmonton. Otherwise, we're also showing a really interesting film on later that night called Labors of Love. It's a film about Henrietta Zolds, who was the founder of Hadassah, and the director of that film, Abby Ginsberg, is coming out here from San Francisco, and she's going to be doing a Q&A later that night. And then for Soul of a Nation, I did a pre-recorded interview with the director as well. He said a lot of really fascinating stuff, and we're going to show that after that film. And then last but not least, one of the films that I'm most excited for this year is called Among Neighbors. It's about the Holocaust in Poland and the post-war experience and the Jewish relationship with their Polish neighbors. And for that film, we actually have a special edition bonus content included where we have an intro from the filmmaker and then, again, another pre-recorded interview Q&A that we're going to show after the fact where they get into all the juicy details.
I would love to hear your perspective on how Shrek is a Jewish film. And I know I'm sure you have a big, deep background, and you could do a big dive into that probably for another time.
It's quite easy, honestly. Shrek is based on a story written by a Jewish author, and it's made by Jewish filmmakers. And so maybe not the most Jewish story content-wise, but Jewish values all dripping throughout it.
And how Shrek is the ogre, and people are scared of him, and they don't appreciate him, and he's the evil Jew until you get to know him.
Exactly.
Great. Thank you so much, Bar.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining.
Good luck with the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bar, for joining us today on the Chai There podcast. We loved having you on here and hearing all about the Jewish Film Festival. And now, here's what's coming up in our community. The Jewish Family Services Calgary annual event celebrating 65 years takes place on April 30th.
Also on May 3rd in Calgary, the Paperny Family JCC is hosting Time for Tea, a generational gathering, which sounds both lovely and I'm sure there's going to be excellent snacks there.
As well as on May 5th in both Edmonton and Calgary, there's a Lag BaOmer event hosted by Chabad and Beth Tzedek.
And on May 7th, Calgary Jewish Federation's Holocaust and Human Rights Department, along with the Calgary Public Library, are presenting How to Share an Egg in conversation with Bonnie Reichart.
Awesome, guys. Thanks so much for joining on our first ever episode. We hope to see you again. Check out our website at chaythere.ca. Visit our socials at chaytherepod on Instagram, Facebook, X, and YouTube. And you can email us at chaytherepod@gmail.com.
Hi There is a culturally Jewish podcast powered by AJN. For more news, visit albertajewishnews.com. Production by Real Mensch Studios.
Take care of yourselves.
Take care of each other.
And call your mother.
Hi there.